Three Sages in a Time Machine, episode 1. And of course, Ryan Roger Athay is late. But at least we have our other amigo in crime with me. And this is a new show coming out of an old show that wants to bring you new content in an incredible, fascinating, and beautiful context. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the COACHMC studio. This is the place where we'll help you actors, performers, entertainers to shape unique behavior deliveries and to stand out in the audition room no matter where the audition takes place, no matter what you're auditioning for. And we want to feed your mind, your brain, your heart, also with other information, with other pictures, not only acting or entertaining related tips and reviews and rants and talks also. No, we also want to give you inspiration coming maybe from various sources, right? Because our planet is manifold, colorful, and full of mysteries and incredible stories. So we will dive into a brand new show. Three Sages in a Time Machine. We will shed light into the mysteries of our history, and we will, maybe unearth some of the secrets of humankind and therefore use it for our own behavior delivery and get great with it, because there's nothing more beautiful than our mind traveling to great places and being inspired, right? And having images and great adventures, even if it's just in our head. It's always to keep us alive. If we can keep that kid alive, we can keep that fireball alive. Life is worth living. So welcome everybody to the show. And without any further ado, I would say, let's jump into today's episode, The Inner Kingdom. And let's bring it on. You're all waiting for him. Welcome everybody to the show, and welcome Dragon Slayer Commentaries.
Hey man, glad to be here. How's it going? How you guys
How's
doing?
it going,
You excited?
I hope you guys are. Welcome, Chad. Dex and R0. Today I call her this way. Carolina, afternoon dragon, everybody. And here it is. Oh, all of a sudden, the world's word wizard has now, find the courage and the time to join us at our beautiful gathering.
I have just gotten off my own show with Aiden Paladin. I'm currently doing the timestamps now, so I do apologize if I'm a bit quiet in these opening minutes. But Coach, Dragon, great to see you, and here's to a great talk. I'm actually feeling quite refreshed after the talk with Aiden, so I might be able to stay for 2 hours, but I'll be as quick as I can.
Beautiful. Thank you, man. Thank you for making it so far. Dragon Slayer, why don't you start with your personal introduction?
Sure, yeah. Well, hey guys, my name is Dragon from Dragon Slayer Commentaries. I make sarcastic video commentary and sometimes, some nice commentary on mostly the bad stuff that comes out of the Hollywood dumpster. But, sometimes if I do see a nice little gold nugget, I'll talk good about it. And that's usually what I do in a nutshell. But, sometimes I like to talk about these more esoteric topics with my friend Coach and Ryan, because
shocking.
I don't know. I know, shocking, right? Dragon likes talking about wild shit out there. Yeah, of course I do. And you know what? You guys are going to enjoy this. And like I said, remember, smash the like button. It is good for you. You will get to live at least to 120. Just saying.
Just saying. Thank you so much for this beautiful introduction of yourself, Ryan Roger Athay. Why don't you tell us why you're here, what you do, and why you're still not eating grilled marshmallows?
My goodness, Coach. Well, hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well, and it's great to see you all watching today. Just currently updating my timestamps. I know it's fucking terrifying. I'm doing 2 things at once. The world truly is coming to an end. But hopefully we have a good talk about some of these topics. Of course, I'm speaking for time as I update more of my timestamps. Dragon, why didn't you go on a fucking monologue? The one time I want you to do a bloody monologue, you don't do a bloody fucking monologue. So,
oh, my bad. I can do one if you really need. I can do monologues on demand. I got Coach here to make them as long as possible.
Can you speak for like 5 minutes while I do these timestamps? Talk about, what you really love, having sex with dragon women or something.
What the fuck?
Hatching eggs. Hatching eggs. Hatching eggs. Guys,
Where the fuck
today,
did this come
I
from?
think It's one of the craziest episodes that we ever had, and this is, I mean, it's our first episode of this new launch. What do you think about the title? Is it cool, right? It kind of represents us. We're three sages, and we're always traveling in a time machine, right?
Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate.
This is the better version of Doctor Who.
Yes, finally we did something right.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh,
I really should get some clips and some sound effects instead of always doing this myself. It kind of gets silly over time. No, thank you so much. And I think we couldn't have chosen like a better. Oh, Golden Gate Each is here. Golden Age Geek is here. Golden Age
Hey, Goldie, how you doing?
See you, man.
It's one of the best topics that we could ever cover. I mean, this is just the first one. Like with the UPART, they're just going to be episode 1. It's going to be episode 2. I'm sure there's so much to cover, so many incredible stories. I can't even, it's incredible. And it's not bestiality if the dragon can shapeshift, right? It's his nature.
Yeah.
It's just him, right? It's
Wait,
just
dragon
him, right?
fucks dog?
What the?
Right.
Oh, fuck
So-
you wanker.
That's what
Like,
bestiality
since,
means.
No bestiality. Ryan just had the decency to label me a devil in front of a lovely lady. Boom, boom,
What?
boom,
No
boom.
way. I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either.
That's
You-
like
you
you
guys
telling me
boom.
the devil wears a
He-
pitchfork.
First, you have to understand, Wales is rain, right? In Wales, it rains, and there is flat land and fog. So you have flat land that is sort of greenish gray, and then you have fog, which is sort of greenish gray, and then it rains, which is sort of a greenish grayish rain. And so this is his life. What do you expect?
Coach, you bamboozle everyone to death, and English is your third language. Jesus
Dun-dun-dun.
Christ. I
I'm
can
sorry.
literally hear Hypno's mind every time you go on a monologue
sorry.
thinking, why
It's like,
won't he shut the fuck up?
Really? Do you think? Oh my God! I'm
Yep.
sorry.
It is
Hypno. I'm sorry.
6:05 p.m. Coach has
I'm
been
not
talking
sorry.
with Dragon a bunch of bullshit, and unfortunately, I gave him
He
the go
hates
ahead.
us.
I am fucked.
This is the problem. So we're gonna I'm gonna show you today where we're gonna travel first, and then we're gonna tell you stories. Sounds good?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, right, I'm gonna show you where we're heading today. This is the place where we assume all of them are sort of collected, all these stories that we today we're gonna disclose.
Excellent.
So
Ooh.
this
I'm still
is the
updating timestamps. This is actually quite a long process. So
this
please
is the
continue.
inner kingdom, or Agartha, or
Journey into
Shambhala.
Agartha. That's
Journey
a
into
good
Agartha.
title right there for your timestamp, by the way.
yeah, I'm
Journey-
busy
yeah,
doing
Journey
other
to-
timestamps at the moment, Dragon.
Right.
God
Why
damn
don't
it,
you-
just write
why
it down
don't-
a corner,
Why
Ryan.
don't you
Yes.
write down this for me and then send it in the private
I'm
chat?
showing the opinion.
I mean, no problemo, sir.
So, believe it or not, guys, I started this drawing. Yes, I was listening to, of course, stories from from back in the days and all sorts of stuff. But it really, this drawing kind of came to me. I can't really explain. I mean, it took me over a month to make it, and sort of this kind of happened to my brain. I had this need to draw this land inside of Earth, right? And I was always fascinated as a kid. Hey, greetings. Paulu, Bulu, 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 Bulu.
Oh,
Hey,
great to
greetings,
see
Fred.
you,
I love
Pulu
this
Wulu.
profile
Great
name,
guy.
man. Yeah, this is maybe the first time here. So thank you so much for showing up. And what's up? This is Future Boy. Future Boy's also here. Cool. Looks
Oh
awesome.
yeah,
Thank you.
Future Boys are great. These are all the people who are watching my show, Coach. So yeah,
Ah, that's why
Yeah.
they're great. So
that's why you
I
have
thought-
viewership.
it's always good to have
God damn
friends
right.
in this space. I love that.
Hey, the truth is reality based, Dragon.
That is true, yes.
Mm.
So, as crazy as it seems, the stories about a place, a kingdom, some sort of a territory, like land that is inhabited inside of planet Earth, these stories are actually super ancient, and you can find them in many, many cultures, right? The Mayans, they believe that they all came out, the 8 mother races, they all came out from a common cavern. Filippo Tommaso Marinetti. Yes, the name. Is he like a comic drawer, I think? Yeah, I heard the name already. And so this idea that there is another Earth another place inside of Earth is coming from all sorts of ancient cultures, but not only from them. Actually, yes, he's a futurist. Yes, exactly. I think I saw once an exhibition of him in Rome, to be honest. So this idea that there is some sort of there's some sort of another place that is inhibited is absolutely not only old, but it's also by people that, were part of, great society, like the Royal Society. If we think of Edmund Halley, right? The guy who the Halley comet and made incredible astronomical and astrological observation. One of the most famous and most prominent parts of the Royal Society in London. He was one of the first in that research group to present the idea that, according to what he is perceiving, he's registering, there needs to be another sort of cavity in this planet, and it's not filled out. What people believed, right? That there is some sort of another place inside, and that it's concave, of course. And so this idea that Earth is hollow and it's inhibited, it's not only coming from old tribes, it's not just folklore, it's not just mystic tales in some ancient books, it's not just some hula from people who couldn't define and understand what's inside, what's outside, what's gravity and all that. No, it comes actually from the most prominent researchers and from one of the biggest member of the Royal Society, one of who shaped astronomy, one who defined a lot of things that we today call physical astronomical observation. So I think this is something where I started kind of picking up the interest more and more, because I started realizing, hey, this idea is going throughout any chapter of human evolution, that there is something inside. And there are many accounts, many tales, many stories, whether we're talking about, seafarer people, topography, plane cockpits, pilots flying over territory. From all sorts of sources, we have accounts and interesting experiences and events that have been brought to us by famous people or absolutely anonymous people from all sorts of backgrounds, and they're all telling us the same story. Inside of Earth, there is another place, and it's a kingdom, and these people know what's going on the surface, and they sometimes even interact with the surface, and they send out people. And there have been many accounts also that have been found in other chronicles, aristocratic chronicles and bulletin and protocols from kingdoms such as Austria and also Romania and other folks in Eastern Europe, where there's been this constant interaction with people from inside of the Earth. So what do you guys make of this, that there is another civilization inside, and that maybe the Earth is not filled up to the current model that we observe that NASA is giving us, with all these different layers of melted rock and fluid rock and magma cores and all that, and crusts and stones, but actually that there is inside another civilization, another empire?
Well, yeah, I'll go. I'll go first. Yes. Don't worry, sir. I will do that. I will do talking. Yes. Don't worry. No. So in terms of the whole Legend of Agartha or underground civilizations, it seems to have been shown, at least very recently, and through other testimony from throughout the century, so to speak. But most recently, there's been a lot of insiders that claim that, and they weren't involved in any sort of these were people
Right.
that were not, or that were skeptics to begin with. Like these guys were never involved in the whole scene like me, you, and Ryan are. And because they were working in secret military programs or scientific programs for any of Earth's governments, they just became so skilled that eventually they were taken to certain expeditions where, through certain access points, either above ground or underwater, in the Earth, you can actually access these pathways that then later expand into these gigantic warm Earth pockets, so to speak. that can actually house life. So technically, and they don't get flooded by. They have their own ecosystems, as according to what these insiders have said, and on top of that, the civilizations that inhabit them, they sort of developed this thing where, yes, they are. Some of them are slightly more technologically advanced than us, but unlike the surface dwellers, as it's called, because they've been under the underground safety and not have to deal with all the crazy weather phenomena that people on the
Right.
surface have to deal with. Their sensitivity to light is obviously way much lower, but at the same time, they cannot easily adapt to Earth's above ground atmosphere or the oxygen levels above ground because they're so adapted
Right.
to the to their levels. And as a result, that's why there's those legends of beings or individuals that look very human like that come out from under caves and, for a short time leave messages to certain individuals to do certain things that will
That's
improve their
very
society.
interesting.
Yeah,
Right.
and they always say they're in there for a short time, but they give them so much information and then they have to return because because generations upon generations have been living underground for so long that even with advanced technology, they can't live above the surface for too long. It would be deadly to them if they didn't have like special suits, if you will. So, and this is multiple testimonies coming from both insiders that have come out publicly and ones that have relayed this information through researchers and journalists. So,
Right.
this information is quite corroborated. And yes,
Right.
some of those societies, let's just say underground, they're not all like one little unified society. Because I
Yeah,
saw
we
this
have this
comment
and
from Daxanon.
H.G. Wells,
Yeah.
right? We have the time machine where we
Uh-huh.
have those
Yep.
underground humanoid dwellers. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Cannibalistic.
exactly.
Right, right.
And
And let's not forget in our last episode that we had,
Ooh.
and actually in the open class doodles, now we have 3 stages in the time machine. Right, in our last episode.
Yes.
we
Also
talked
known
about-
as Doctor Who done right. My goodness.
yes.
But,
we
thank
talked
you,
about the
Dra-
message.
Well, I was
We,
just
we
going to
talked
say,
about right.
Coach,
Sorry.
thank you,
Yes.
Dragon, for padding out the time. I might as well give my point of view because
Sure.
you can't really make a timestamp out of this without my view. Otherwise, you can't really make it into a video on my channel. But I really do see the mirror between fantasy and reality here is that something needs to feed off something else. You wouldn't have these mystical tales of time and space and journey to the center
Sure.
of the earth without there being a semblance of
I agree.
fact to the situation. That's where the whole concept of a conspiracy theory comes from, is that you're questioning the establishment's view, and if the
Yeah.
establishment is not to be trusted, you have to question them. And when it really boils down to it, you question them on
Yeah.
absolutely everything, from the origins of space to the origins of nuclear weapons to the potential
Sure.
for underground civilizations. So
Yeah,
that's
because you have
that's
to.
my
I mean,
view
it is.
boiled down.
Yeah, yeah, no, sure. I mean, it's fascinating because if you start, whatever narrative is, right? You start questioning it and you kind of unpack it, and then you really find something while digging that is truly interesting, intriguing, kind of contradicts the mainstream narrative, and you kind of, this is how it. No, it didn't really start with me like this. I mean, I came from a different standpoint already, but at a certain point, I started getting curious. That's for sure. I started just getting really curious, right? I had time. I have to admit, I was, at a certain point, you have time in your life where you can do these things. Now, it would have been possible. I wouldn't have just the muse and the time to kind of connect the dots. Back in the days when I started doing my alternative research, that was definitely like an advantage. But even today, now I feel like with the knowledge being so like it's in the palm of your hand, you can actually connect the dots way quicker than people like me who started when internet wasn't a thing. And so maybe that gave me also a bit more the dedication of looking for smaller details, that's for sure. But I feel like this is a very fascinating quest, and I think also why people are watching this show, right? It's kind of because it's fascinating to ask those, and why should it be always like let's not forget the idea that there is a conspiracy theory. That was actually the term was coined by the CIA, right? It kind of,
Correct. Yes.
to defame any type of attempt to kind of search for the real, string pullers in the JFK assassination that were involved with the 22nd of November 1963. That was actually a term that was invented by the CIA to discredit anyone who would question the mainstream narrative. So I feel like there is some sort of a moral chevalier type of justice in being a conspiracy theorist, because there is something like very pure about it. It's like, no, we're fighting something very just, like on Saturday Night Hypnosis. We're fighting for something very just, I believe.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I mean, it boils down the 3 steps to victory. Highlight the problem,
Yes.
find the solution, be the change you want to see. I always bring it up because questioning the establishment is necessary in highlighting the problem. If they weren't causing problems, you wouldn't be highlighting it, which means they're doing their job. If the establishment actually ran things properly to the betterment of humanity, social
for
peace,
me, I mean,
economic prosperity, then they
at
wouldn't have
least-
any kind of opposition.
At least in a genuine way, right? You can make mistakes. Of course, you can make mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's not about not making mistakes. It's about being really genuine about when you try to attempt to do something evil, even though maybe you believe back in the days you were acting for the good, right? And maybe you tried something that was out of the constraints of common sense, of legality, and instead of admitting that, running more and more lies on top and covering the lie with more and more lies and making people, blaming people for assuming that you are doing something that goes against the moral standard. Yeah, then it becomes evil. I feel like in the beginning, it's always a mistake. It's always just a mistake. And then it's how you deal about that mistake that kind of defines on which side you are standing of history. And so this is why I love these research quests with you guys, because it's always a dialogue about other topics in the end. But let's go and kind of unpack this a little bit. So what is it? Edmund Halley once said the Earth is hollow. Is he the only astronomer? Is he the only researcher? Is he the only physicist? No, by no means. There's a plethora. Even Newton, right? In a way, Newton was an occultist, right? He was an alchemist. He was believing in the Kabbalah and studying other materials. So for him, the idea that there is something else inside of planet Earth wasn't so far off, his theories as well, right? The Kabbalah, if you look at the Zohar, right, which is the esoteric Torah, right? If you look into the Zohar, it clearly states about, the inner beings, inner man. So the idea that there is another civilization inside, you can find it pretty much, whether it's through folklore, mystic tales, but also in the research community, in the science community, we had many, kind of defendants of that thesis. And there were also expeditions, some of them quite long. We talked about Nicholas Roerich last time, right? His expedition went for 5 years and was financed by the Agricultural Ministry of the United States of America. It wasn't like some sort of a nerd research group from somewhere, right? So it like even governments sort of, buy in this idea. And if you want further proof, Camp David was named Camp David by Eisenhower. Before that, the name of Camp David, the summer residence of the President of the United States, was Camp Shangri-La or Camp High Onokti, which is an occult term for the inner kingdom, which has everything to do with what we're also discussing today. And that is the summer residence of the President of the United States. There is no coincidence in choosing those names and those titles. You're aware of that. Look at the logos, right? Look at the symbolism. We always talk about it. So I guess the name that they had given to that residence is a very telling one. Not to mention that Nicholas Roerich, who created the seal of the United States, like we also kind of touched upon in the last episode, was in search for an entrance of Agartha, of the inner kingdom.
No, yeah, I agree, because like at the end of the day, with people don't seem to realize this, because we do point out like a few unique let's say exceptional individuals in regards to them knowing or being at least aware of the existence of either Agartha, Shangri-La, or it's just in general an underground kingdom society of sort, right? Or an underworld. Let's put it that way. That's actually more accurate. But the
Right.
thing is like most human beings up until this point, and by this point I mean right when the age of extreme reason took over, which we're talking at least mid 19th century until today. Up until that point, most of humanity was quite aware of all these topics that
Oh
we're
yeah.
talking about. Now, that everyone
Yeah.
believed them? Of course not. Not everybody
No.
believed everything that was
Sure.
said about them, but people were at least aware that such a thing existed or such a topic existed. They were way much better informed, surprisingly, than the average people of today are, even though we have access to a bazillion things. But, then again, yeah.
What he says here, the establishment can no longer mask its duplicity, gaslighting, and de facto psychological war of attrition against the populace. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly what we're
They
talking
can't
about.
anymore.
Folks,
That's a
if
really
you're
good point.
wondering why I was hiding my face and muting myself, I had to deconstruct part of my desk. Because guess what I found in my room? I found a slug.
God.
I found a
What
slug
the fuck?
in my room. I don't know where the fuck it came from.
What?
Right there.
Oh,
Right there, ladies.
oh man, we are. No, you can't.
I don't understand. It's now. Don't be discriminatory against slugs. Atreus is the same color as this slug. I'll accuse you of racism. There's nothing wrong.
Wait, Ryan, could you please show
Don't do
the
this.
slug again, please?
There
I
he
just
is.
need to
All
take a
come in good
screenshot. Just show it
intention.
for a second.
There we go.
Thank you, sir. I got it now.
It's black as Atreus. I just saw it because I
Jesus
dropped my pen
fucking
and I'm like,
Christ.
I noticed the slug and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here, you little bastard? It's damn
Oh,
shame I
man.
don't have any salt to put on you, you little fucker. But
So-
anyway, I'll be right back.
It's all good. It's all good.
Oh
So-
man. That's just
Let's
fucking
say
crazy.
when Haley and his boys, just to come back a little bit to topic, when Haley, his boys in the 18th century started with that theory, right, of hollow Earth. The funny thing was that all of a sudden we see in the 18th, 19th century, we see all of these publications come out, right? Whether it's Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, all these future pseudo journalistic type of kind of stories, right? They had some sort of like a real documentary touch to them, like a real authenticness that sort of transcended just a novel or a storytelling or narrative. It sort of felt like real accounts from the future about these travels to inner Earth, right? And or with the time machine and the monologues, or all these interesting kind of explorations, whether to the moon or to the to the depths of the sea. So it sort of kind of became a very interesting narrative, and especially in the 19th century, we start seeing cities like London, Paris, Berlin, Vienna, Belgrade, right, Rome, Istanbul, sort of becoming also very high esoteric centers, right, where new knowledge was distributed, sort of a revival. We had the Art Nouvelle and the Nouvelle Epoque, and the French kind of blossoming up, and Cubism being invented, and sort of esoteric knowledge was again kind of flourishing all over the place. And there for the first time, we see this narrative, we see this connection, that people started to believe that you can sort of get in contact with these people or with this earth inside. And one of the people who was prevalently responsible for that, his name is Alexandre Saint-Yves. And he wrote a book in the 19th century, which became The Journey to Agartha. And we will show it really quick over here. It's a beautiful book. And this Alexandre Saint-Yves claims that this book was given to him, the story in this book was given to him by an inhabitant of Agartha, an Indian descendant of a noble royal family, that he was actually a prince. And this guy was writing in an unknown language. And Alexandre Saint-Yves gave some of these examples of letters and writings and sentences to experts back then in Paris, and nobody could make out what these writings, would actually represent. A phonetic system that was completely unknown, and it was somehow relatively similar or close to Sanskrit, but it wasn't really Sanskrit. It seemed to be even older than that. And this person, this prince from this kingdom, told Alexandre Saint-Yves that he needs to write this book, right? That he needs to show people the entrance to the kingdom of Agartha. And this was the final kind of, this was the final bubble that made the barrel burst. From this day on, when this book was published, it kind of became, like an urban legend. And people all over the planet started looking for these entrances to these inner kingdoms. And like I said, even the US, the Germans, the Russians, all sorts of big countries, Greece, Italy, they were all of a sudden interested in finding these alleged entrances. They all believed there could be a connection with these kingdoms and, nobility, aristocracy, and the kingdoms that we, kind of became, that sort of we got inherited from the ancient times. That somehow there could be also a connection with these godlike beings and this inner kingdom. And so big expeditions were actually financed to find these mythical entrances. And whether it's Agartha, Shambhala, Shangri-La, it's always the same concept. There is a kingdom inside. There are inhabitants who are some sort of an advanced civilization, and they want to get back in contact with us, or maybe they're already influencing us, but they have great knowledge, great wisdom, and great technology.
And this doesn't come out of nothing, folks. And yes, I did put the slug down the drain. Speaking of a mystery that came out of nowhere. But yeah, it is quite damp here, and slugs do like damp spots. But it was just the one. It's not as if it's a spider or a centipede or something scary. It was just a little slug. But this doesn't come out of nowhere. And clearly the stories we see are based on something deep-rooted. And that deep root is starting to emerge as folks, especially content creators, do what they do best, which is to discover things and to build an audience out of bringing people together to showcase these obscure things.
What do you think about these inner kingdoms, Dragon?
Well, I think it was always
as a dragon.
something...
I mean, you're living in cavities all day long.
Yes. As they say in the legends, yes, dragons of great knowledge and power live underground.
No. The true question, Coach, is this: Dragon, are you a furry?
God damn it, Ryan! Way to ruin it. And it's scaly, you motherfucker. Right.
So you're a scaly, which is a weirder version of a furry. I got it.
No. I have no recollection of saying that. Anyway,
you just did. You said it's scaly, so you're not a furry.
That's what a rainbow furry community calls me, even though I never asked for it. And I think and to them, I think I am like the fucking Antichrist, because I called out some bullshit.
Has Ryan cleaned up his DVD stack? It looks very clean and neat and very nicely set up.
What the hell? Oh yeah, it does look very clean. What the hell?
No, it actually looks like it might collapse. So give me a minute.
Oh no. Well, anyway, in terms of underground kingdoms, there was supposedly yes, thank you, Puluwulu. Yes, that's maybe why he likes talking to me, because I remind him of his of the Welsh flag. But in terms of these underground kingdoms, there's always been this sort of prophecy or thing said, which is that eventually all the knowledge that was kept underground will resurface, and basically most of mankind will be like reunited with their true selves, or like with the knowledge that they have lost. But there is enough evidence, as we've spoken about, that a lot of these societies, let's just try to. I'm going to play devil's advocate, right? If we go off of these alleged legends, right? Then, and we have evidence that natural disasters took place around between 10,600 years ago and 13,600 years ago BC, by the way.
Exactly.
Then, and we have ruins like Göbekli Tepe, that even as a devil's advocate, I would have to ask myself a question. With all these stories of people going to underground caves, and with these special people or individuals, and just waiting it out for a century or two, or maybe decades, because that's even unclear. And then coming out after the whole world has been like reshaped and sundered, and trying to just rebuild basically a world that much of its knowledge above ground at least was lost, or was completely lost, because they even make it very clear in all of these stories that most of the knowledge that we have was that humanity had in order to like do a quick restart by these individuals that some call gods, some call enlightened ones, whatever you want it, that came from underground. These people had the knowledge safely stored in their underground kingdoms, and then released it for a time in order to rebuild the above ground human civilization. But as we all know, if they were pretty smart and realized that mankind above ground is too dumb at the moment and way too violent, and that maybe we should keep it under wraps and only show it to a few people at a time, and let the change be gradual, so that when the time does come, people will be more accepting, or at least willing to hear this extra knowledge in order to enlighten themselves. Because these sorts of things, a lot of enlightened masters that said that they'd learned these things from below ground or whatever have you, they all say the same thing. Like, it's all a gradual process of rediscovery. So I'm going to end it at that.
Always... No. I don't want you to end, man. I love your...
No, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to give it a pause. I don't want to go into a 2-hour monologue. That is all.
Oh, yeah. A pause is good. I'm due for the next timestamp now, Coach. So who is this gentleman?
So let's talk about, Haley. We talked about Haley, the one who perpetuated this idea of hollow earth. So a great scientist, one of the brightest heads of his flock, right? 18th century. We talked about Newton, who also believed a lot in this esoteric occult knowledge, who could imagine that there is another kingdom inside. And like you were saying, Newton was also pointing to the problems with the chronicles of Scaliger. The timelines didn't seem to fit for Newton. He said there is something off about how the empires are presented to us in terms of the extension of their respective empires, how long and he said something happened in between that somehow historians are trying to cover up. So in terms of that, maybe there was some sort of cataclysm, and the population or the civilization back then found a way of hiding inside, and then they came back right when the water kind of retrieved and found a new breed up there, and sort of there was this all of the sudden there was whether this collaboration or these attritions and these frictions, because now we're facing a complete different at a complete different stage of development, right? Before they were all united, then they fled into underground. When they came back, they found a new population up there. So it's interesting that these storytellers that are bringing us these stories are always, kind of connected to aristocratic society, to Freemasonry. This is, for example, this is Marquis Alexandre Saint-Yves, right? The guy who wrote The Kingdom of Agartha, and he was a well-known esoteric master in France. He lived in that era that I was describing, mid-19th century, 1840, 1860, 1880. This was very interesting time, right? and he was member of the Golden Dawn, which used to be a Rosicrucian Freemasonry lodge, right? He was, and part of that Golden Dawn was also Aleister Crowley, very, very, influential people, part of British royalty. And back in those circles, we have Helena Blavatsky attached to this, Rudolf Steiner, who was, the founder of the anthroposophic movement, who then through the Waldorf Astoria hotel became the Waldorf School worldwide. So we have all these esoteric traditions coming together, and that crucial time of the 19th century, all believing that somehow that these breakaway split civilizations were trying to kind of get in contact, or were in contact with us again, and that their plan was to teach us about something that could happen in the future and try to save us, or try to give us technology, try to help us. It's something that spread so far that this book, like I said, spawned off in many different branches. Helena Blavatsky, who was very fascinated about the story of the Kingdom of Agartha by Alexandre Saint-Yves, she believed she could contact these masters, that she could actually make an active effort of getting in contact with them. And so she founded one of her many societies, and she called these the ascending masters, or the ascended masters, or the people from inner earth that came to upper earth and then went back to inner earth. And the ascended master is part of the Theosophy movement. And there is no religion higher than truth, right? Again, we have very interesting symbols here, right? We have the snake, the Horus Boreas. We have the swastika, or the Gamadion, or the tetrascallion. We have the, of course, aren't we seeing this right now? This unification of cults and different religions and different belief systems, all under one guidance, right? Of the ascended master, under one guidance of one big narrative, right? Let's come all together. Let's coexist. We've seen these stickers. This is stuff from that era. And what they are leaving today now, coexist as religion. Theosophy is literally, of course, the wisdom of the ultimate theological guidance. And the ultimate guidance is to accept the fact that the gods are living inside of the earth, right? So these people, Helena Blavatsky, Alexandre Saint-Yves, Rudolf Steiner, Aleister Crowley, and also part of the British royalty, of course, because they were part of the Royal Society. Edmund Halley was part of it. Newton was part of it. They truly believed in that. For them, this was, the idea that Mahatma Gandhi means an ascended master. The Dalai Lama believes that there is Shangri-La. So the Indians, the Buddhists, all these Eastern philosophies, the Chitamuri, the crown of the Chitamuri, of the king of the inner kingdom. And the Dalai Lama believes that the Chitamuri sometimes steps on his ground, right, and makes the earth shake. Even the Japanese masters believe that there is an inner God, right? And we have the Greek tales and the Roman tales telling us about Tartaria, about the underground dwellings. And so this narrative, some way or the other, was always alive, but maybe sometimes cloaked under a different narrative, right? Or with a different headline.
I mean, the fusion between theology and philosophy is a very interesting one, trying to bring the best bits of both together in that respect. And it's good to know that Dragon Slayer shared my my surprise slug to everyone in the Bigot verse. I'm sure that will show that I'm not mentally ill in any way, shape, or form. I will also say that this is knowledge that has been kept under wraps and is extremely esoteric for a very simple reason. Those in positions of power and influence don't want people to know anything about this. Even the possibility of knowing could have them go insane, the establishment. And most normie type folks would have no idea why such a madness is taking place. But as we all know, with progressive types, The things that really do bug them are things that are at the core of humanity. The family is a great example of that. And to truly know our origins, as soon as we find the correct theorem, that's what will drive them mad to the point of mass censoring their opposition. That's when you know you're on to something good. And yes, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel that bears my name, because the truth is reality. There we go. It was clearly pointing at me.
Yes,
Clearly
it's true.
pointing.
It's true. It's
See,
there. I'm not doing
Oh,
anything.
oh
It's,
yeah. Also subscribe to
Hey,
this
Chad, let me-
to the Red Cap Dudes channel too. You know.
yes.
Oh my god.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh
Now we
yeah.
would get
Aleister
a little
Crowley.
bit to Aleister Crowley and kind of get down that rabbit hole as well. Helena Blavatsky is, of course, a very fascinating connection. So she was
Yep.
highly inspired by the kingdom of Agartha. And again, guys, this book, I mean, what Marquis Alexandre de Saint-Yves, described back then, the writings that he brought forward, the inscriptions, the stuff that he was saying, that stuff was verified. The governments were sitting around this, and linguistic experts were coming together. Like it created a lot of waves, right? Because there was some sort of skepticism, as you could imagine, in the beginning. But then these writings were so authentic and were so inexplicable. They were like out of place artifacts in a way, right? You couldn't really describe, because again, this was told to Alexandre Saint-Yves by this prince from inside of Earth, from this Agartha place, and so therefore that idea was somehow revolutionary, very interesting at the same time. And when Helena Blavatsky thought of, okay, how can we contact them? How can we bring these two civilizations together? How can we connect the master? How can we, maybe get taught or instructed by him? She reached out to this lady here, and her name is Maria Orsic.
Oh.
And Maria
yes.
Orsic,
The
Maria
Brill
Orsic,
Society medium.
yes,
I forgot
Maria
all about
Orsic,
this.
as you can see, is a beautiful lady. She has very long hair. Yes. And
Yes,
she's from Croatia.
course.
She lived in Munich in southern Germany. And you must know that Munich is the occult center of Germany. It's one of those where you have underground dwellings, a lot of tunnel systems allegedly built by the Romans, a lot of strange stone formations in the forest where people have like black candles and all sorts. Munich is a highly occult city. And when Alexandre Saint-Yves' book kind of hit the establishment there with the help of Blavatsky and also with support of Rudolf Steiner, who was on his side supported by American and also German aristocracy, they introduced her into these Munich circles, into these Munich occult circles, and there were several ladies who claimed to be mediums and kind of connected to the spirits. And Aleister Crowley's Al-Shamash or El-Hawazi, that figure that he channeled, and the pyramids and the king's chamber, and the alleged king's chamber and the Cheops pyramid. So, and Maria Orsic was the most brilliant one of these mediums and these muses that were kind of circling in those occult cycles. And of course, we had a lot of mixed cultures there in Munich back then. You have to imagine Munich is very close to Eastern Europe. So we had Croatians, Hungarians, Jewish people, German aristocracy, Italian aristocracy, because Italy is right there on the corner, Austrian. So it was very mixed. And in those circles, we have Maria Orsic that was acting as a medium with the help of Helena Blavatsky to get in touch with the master called Moria. Master Moria, the ascended master from the inner kingdom, wearing the crown of the mythical Chitamuri, the crown from which stone Parsifal grabbed the green stone and became Parsifal, right? Because this is out of the crown of the stone out of the crown of the inner kingdom. So it's also reflecting in Wolfgang Holbein's saga Parsifal. But Maria Orsic is also known for being in contact, of course, with someone called Robert Subbottendorf. And Robert Subbottendorf was the founder of the Real Society, who later then kind of confluted in the German Workers' Party, who then became the National Socialist German, Workers' Party, which later went on to become the Dark Empire of the 1930s that allegedly kicked off the Second World War. So there is this interesting connection also with the esoteric German side of things that brings the inner kingdom also to the fascist reign of 1930s in Germany.
It's a good job,
Morgan.
Coach, you didn't move to Japan. That would have been the ultimate red flag move. A Sicilian Italian going to being bred, born in Sicily, raised in Germany, and then moves to Japan. It's one hell of a red flag right there. Or an extreme coincidence link.
Dragon, tell us a little bit about the Real Society and what the implications were of their workings.
Sure, yeah. Well, if you guys didn't know, if some of you guys in chat don't know, the Real Society was basically just a very popular occult society in Germany at the time.
Was it real as well as a society, Dragon? He does this all the
time.
It was, Coach. He tries to pad his answer to sound as
it's
eloquent as you do.
It is an occult. It was at the time an occult society. Now we know about it, but back in the day it was quite occult because the only people that knew about it were those that were in that inner circle, and also the German government at the time under the command of Adolf Hitler. That's pretty obvious.
Dragon, there are some German words. I'll try to pronounce them.
The Alldeutsch Gesellschaft für Metaphysik. Yeah.
Alldeutsch Gesellschaft für Metaphysik.
Hey, don't slander and don't truncate so severely this beautiful language. Altdeutsche Gesellschaft für Metaphysik.
No, I'd have to shout German in order to speak it.
Alldeutsche Gesellschaft, so all German society for metaphysic, which is interesting, right? Metaphysic.
Okay. Alldeutsche Gesellschaft für Metaphysik. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. See, helped me pronounce things correctly. But yeah, no, they were basically at the time a secret society that was not known by a lot of people except their inner circle and some people in high places. And Hitler, believe it or not, and the SS were very, very obsessed with the occult. Hitler and the SS firmly believed that if they were to acquire any of the mythical artifacts of legend that were mentioned in many legends throughout human history, that they could have some sort of edge in the coming and at the time continuing war that was occurring at the time, which is World War II. And as a result, they sent out a lot of expeditions throughout the world before and during the war to basically look for all these artifacts. That is why the Indiana Jones movies exist, because they are inspired by these real life expeditions that took place. And
that's why they feel also so real by watching them. They sort of have like a real.
True that they did do these expeditions. Now I don't know, there's some random American archaeologist whipping people to steal their shit, but in real life, Maria did eventually meet the SS leaders, and according to some logs that were recovered, it seems that they used her and her fellow occultists to do this seance where she was channeling this being, supposedly a reptilian being from Agartha, that gave them information and schematics to creating basically more advanced weaponry in order to be able to gain supreme technological edge during the war. And that is why supposedly the Germans just came out of, like, for the rest of the world at the time, it felt like out of nowhere, like a lightning bolt. The Germans were just demolishing everyone in this blitzkrieg of destruction because they had so much, because their technology was vastly more advanced than everyone else's tech,
And the crazy thing was that part of this real societies that channeled these information. And by the way, they had 5 ladies in Munich at one point that were called the real muses, the 5 muses of the real society. And 4 of them had extremely long hair. Maria Orsic, as you can see on this picture, has extremely long hair. And really, like, it was said also in the accounts when you're reading about them that they had extremely beautiful hair. And Blavatsky and Rudolf Steiner and other esoteric masters, Crowley also, and the Golden Dawn Society, they believed that hair was like a connector to these masters, that somehow they were functioning like antennas, that you could receive those messages because of the long hair. And we have
Like
these
an
ideas
avatar.
of
With the Navi, they use hair.
Yeah,
sort of,
in a way,
like,
yes.
we have Samson, right, in the Bible, that gets his force out of his hair, and when you cut his hair, his strength is gone. Or the Emperor of China, that once he cuts his hair, he has no right to rule anymore because his
Did you
hair
say
is
Samson or Samsung? There is a
No, he
difference.
said Samson. No, he said
Oh,
Samson.
Samson.
I thought he
No,
said
did say Samson.
Samsung then.
No, it sound. I thought that too at first, but then I was like, oh wait, no, he's saying Samson, the biblical person, not the phone.
Right, and
No.
they believed that the power that they had, except one who had kind of short hair. Here, I think, no, it's not them. Except one, all of them had these extremely long hairstyles because the hair was enabling them to contact these masters. Yes, we actually have the Night of Samson. This is where Samsonite, the luggage producer, is actually getting this idea from. If you actually look at the logo, you have the same logo as here. This is it's the black sun. It's Samson's night. When his hair fell off, this is when the tower and the whole building collapsed then, right? In his rage, he brought down all 504 pillars, I believe. And this is how the temple collapsed and everybody died. So it's the night, the darkest night of Samson. This is why it's called Samsonite. Because they are so strong that they can even withstand the collapse of the temple. This was the idea of the luggage manufacturer. And so these ladies then also, so they communicated, and like Dragon Slayer illustrated, it seems like they kind of communicated these blueprints, and the thing is, this is truly mad. Like Siemens, right? Big, still today, like a big industrial leader, big producer of one of those big corporations from Germany, very old traditional. One of the CEOs, one of the bosses of Siemens, was part of that Thule Real Society. He was part of these seances, and Siemens became a weapon manufacturer, being the first one to record and register the patent for a laser beam, and that was back in the 30s. They called it Cascade Light Operator. I couldn't find the blueprint because I was preparing the show and doing many things.
And what does Siemens make to date, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh my God! No, Ryan, no.
What does Siemens make today, ladies and gentlemen? I don't actually know, Dragon, but since you said that, I'm going to find out.
No, but it's interesting
Wow.
that it seems like there is something to this story, that these 5 ladies from the Real Society were contacting, these masters inside of planet Earth and another place as well that we're gonna, highlight in a couple of minutes, that they actually delivered some sort of substantial technological information that really helped these companies to invent, to build these revolutionary futuristic weapons, right? Like the Schauberger bell, the Schauberger flying disc, the Cascade Light Operator. All these things were coming out of these occult cycles that believed that they were communicating with these inner masters.
Well, I'd just like to say Siemens are very good at making cookers, folks. I wonder where they started doing that.
No
Oh
wonder
my
that the Germans, of course, the first thing that they do when they really conquer Germany is to, like Dragon Slayer said, Hitler was obsessed about finding these entrances, and he sent out people to Egypt. He sent with the old symbols. He sent out people to Tibet, and he contacted the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama, it's like, they were welcoming the Germans because they used the holy symbols, the holy colors, red, black, wide, right? And so they were communicating their will, Antarctica, of course, and we're going to talk about Antarctica. And they were going to these strategic places where they believed that they could find the entrance to this, right? Besides, of course, all the other things, but definitely Shambhala, Agartha, it was of high interest. They were mentioning this over and over again. They were truly believing that inside of planet Earth there is something like this.
My God.
Yeah.
It's Wakanda.
Underground Wakanda, okay?
It's underground
Credit.
Wakanda. Underground Wakanda. Daily. Underground Wakanda.
Of course, the German makes the racist remark. Well, it's okay.
Of
It's all
course.
good. No,
Oh,
but
man,
I do find it
yeah.
fascinating that holy shit, that's must have taken a long
Yeah,
time.
it's like
to
a
draw.
mix
It
of
did.
Gothic European and
It took a
North
long
African
time.
European.
I mean, look
because
at
of
all
the
these
Yeah.
buildings,
Egyptian
and
pyramids.
without any ruler, mind you. This is all like freehand. I mean, you can see it; it's all freehand, but yeah.
Shit, you do this freehand?
This
Bro,
is
Yeah,
a
this is all
perfect
freehand.
world created by a German who was born in Italy.
I'm not a German.
Ooh,
I was born in Sicily on a volcano. I'm not German.
isn't it Italian?
Hey, Kim Jong Il was also born in a volcano. Coach.
yeah, it's
fucking
He
hell.
also didn't
Hephaestus.
need to defecate,
Oh
Coach.
my god.
Dun, dun,
Well,
dun, dun,
I do want
dun.
to say that I find it very fascinating because a lot of the scriptures either describe it as a city full of vibrant colors or more of like a city of crystals, if you will. Like all the crystals are shining a very unique bright light, and supposedly the city is illuminated due to some technology, basically like refracting or creating a light source from the crystals by reflecting some high powered light on it, and it sort of creates like this natural environmental cycle of night and day that way. But what I think is more interesting is basically the people that dwell there. You know, supposedly they live for thousands of years. They have superb healing technology, but the best part is that, according to the Dalai Lama, he is a reincarnation of basically one of
Yes.
these supposed
Ascended
kings
missile. Yes.
of
Yeah.
Agartha or Shambhala
Yes.
that basically won't return until, or not won't return, more like is aware of itself in both underground and above ground, but won't return together until basically all is revealed. And the whole flat Earth stuff, man. Like,
if you think of a tabernacle, if you have a tabernacle, which all the ancient civilizations actually drew as the original shape of our planet, you have both. You have a disc-shaped surface, and you have like this cavity, beneath. Like you have this, this pocket of Earth in the tabernacle beneath that disc, right, attached to that disc. So it's possible to have both models combined. But yeah, thanks for the comment. So this is a book I also read, and it's coming out exactly in the same era. This is from 1829, so 20 years before Kingdom of Agartha, Quest to the Kingdom of Agartha came out. And this is from a complete different source. This is not coming out of those esoteric aristocracy, noble, sort of decadent occult circles, not industrial circles as well. This is a fisherman who is, he's a Norwegian. And later on, they tried to spin this as if he, was writing a novel, if this is like a romance type of account. But he, he till his death, right? He said, guys, this is a witness account. This really happened to me. The only reason when I published this was that they sent me almost 20 years into a lunatic asylum. And so I had to claim that I was cured, bada boom. But, and so I had to kind of go back on what I said. But this was only to get out of the asylum. I actually was there with my father, and I experienced everything I was, writing in this book. And when you read the book, it's not a big book, by the way. It's a relatively quick read. like it's a piece of literature that goes by in nothing. But you put it aside, and you cannot but to believe everything he has written, because it's just the way he writes it so clearly that he's been there. Like he's describing, so you can really tell. Me, especially as an actor, right? You can distinguish good from bad writing, what's really authentic, what's original, where you can feel, all right, this is completely out of the blue. And every single word in this little book is placed where it needs to belong. And it was written by a fisherman, mind you, right? Who kind of, set out once with his father, disappeared for, I think, totally 12 days. And when he got back, everybody in the village was like, what happened to you? And he's like, yeah, we went to a kingdom inside. And then they threw him into an enigmatic asylum for 20 years. And when he got out, he published a book and said, I was really there, but I just had to tell the story in order to get out. And so it's an absolute like flabbergasting type of literature, because it's hands-on. It's not something that was channeled by esoteric masters, right? It's not some wild theory by occult circles or any seances, right? That could still be defined as, I might believe that stuff is going on in seances for sure, but if that's always so clear and so pure, I don't know, right? But this is someone who has like lived his entire life with like work, right? Just making honest work, sweating his hands off, injuring himself, going out there, reading the waves, reading the tides, reading the elements, coming back with some fish, selling them, and provide for his family. A really honest, authentic guy. And he tells us about this day where he kind of, lost track of navigation, and all of a sudden he finds himself sailing inside of this inner kingdom, and describes these crazy technologies, these strange sexual behaviors, and these absolutely advanced civilizations that we're living inside on these. And he describes in the 1820s, he describes electromagnetic propulsion. He describes anti-gravity. He describes futuristic streamlined trains. So all stuff that by all means no fisherman from Norway, right, in the 1820s just can, make up out of the blue. It's the way it is described. It almost feels like it's an Arthur C. Clarke or Jules Verne or an H.G. Wells, and not a fisherman, right? Because he didn't try to make up any any fantasized stuff. He just described what he has seen.
And they locked him up for it. Which should go to show that he was resonating. He was highlighting the problem, and they done him in. They suppressed him. And the highest form of suppression is deplatforming, and the highest form of censorship is not just confinement, but also assassination. So, no wonder he pulled a bait and switch on them, so he could reveal all with that dark mirror between fantasy and reality.
Yeah, and sometimes the greatest weapon against the establishment is not always what you can do during your lifetime, but more like creating a legacy under the guise that you're following the program, but you're actually doing subtle moves behind the scenes.
Subtle hacking of financial services, for example. Purely as a hypothetical example, Dragon.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, the thing is, okay, at the end of the day, a lot
I know
of these
you
people
work for the North Koreans, Dragon. I know you're responsible for the Sony hacks. I know.
Oh my god.
Not denying it, which means it's true.
What?
Lock him up right now.
Quietly. Oh man. No, but no, what people like this guy would do is they knew that if they went out there to just talk about something, they would end up getting locked up immediately, or like this guy didn't realize it gets locked up, and then he comes out and he's like, well, you know what? I'm gonna get back at them. I'm not gonna make them think that I've given up. I'm gonna write about my story. I'll make it sound fictional as hell, and I'll make money out of it, which is always good, but also the message will live on beyond my years, basically, which is how we all know the story. Because at the end of the day, sometimes the greatest weapon against the establishment is leaving behind a legacy that counters the message, and then inspiring those that come after you who may be capable of eventually overcoming the established viewpoint to give it that final push. And that's something that I honestly believe is happening right now, which is that we now have a legacy of people that are alive now, but also that are now dead, that are giving us all this information all at once. And as a result, the problem was pointed out, the solutions are being presented, and now they're being implemented gradually, of course.
Yes,
And
of
so
course.
that's what I think. That's why I think books like these are so impactful in general.
You know, folks,
It's
I just
interesting.
found a cartoon reel which I think is very resonant in regards to this whole situation. I would share my screen, but it is very controversial. I did find it on
Give it to me. Give it to
on
me.
Twitch.
Oh, fuck.
I love
Twitch.
controversial.
Let's
Okay.
share my
Twitch.
screen right here. Oh,
Oh,
my!
goodness.
Oh my
Oh
God, I'm a bit
my!
afraid.
Oh my! What's that, ladies and gentlemen? Please ignore the rights of don't
Not
look
I
at
can
this.
afford groceries now.
Look at this. And this is from a Japanese animator
Oh
called
my god.
Tatsuya Ishida, great cartoonist. Go and check
No,
him
he is
or
amazing.
her out. And yet, please don't look at the right of this. It's not true. Look at the left of it. The left of it looks great. So there you go.
You know what resonated with me the most? The part where he says, I can afford groceries now.
Yep.
Because if you don't get on with the fucking program, you have a hard time affording groceries and everything else.
Why do you think I spent like $5,000 on this nose, folks? It was to fit in.
Is it an Argentinian? It's an Argentinian surgeon that did this, right? I can see his
Port
style.
Stanley in the Falklands. Yeah, I can't actually land on Argentinian soil. But,
we can actually, in a crazy way, believe it or not, the Falklands. I mean, I thought about including them in today's program, believe it or not, because they are also connected to the inner Earth narrative. There is this in the alternative research community. There is a very strong case for the Falkland Island Wars being a war about a very strange substance that's coming from inner Earth that is able to control minds, to get in touch with you telepathically, to have a high energy output, and that somehow that area down there, Falkland Islands. Think about Moby Dick, right? The great white whale, right?
Moby Dick.
And
I do apologize for Coach's pronunciation.
Goddamn, Ryan.
all these strange appearances in the southern polar circle. There is this area down there that is truly weird, and everybody who visits Fireland, Patagonia, who's been to the south of Argentina, really where everything ends. There is something about this area that is totally weird, surreal, eerie, and strange, and unnerving. And you feel like some sort of pressure all the time. And yeah, there's been many, many different strange sightings. We will talk about a lot of stuff, but I really thought about including the Falkland Islands, because this territory down there, strange things have been seen, and there's definitely also strong narrative and a strong connection. I just wanted to point out one last thing, like the Smoky God, this fisherman. What he describes like inner Earth looks like is a perfect match to Halley's theories, to other great scientists, right? So that was again about the crystal sun, about how rivers were flowing. He makes incredible descriptions. Again, someone who was not out of the research or science community, who could like describe exactly what, all these Agartha, these inner kingdom maps would look like. That was making a strong case that what he was saying in this book, that was actually a witness account. And he claims that he stayed there for 2 consecutive years, and that it was on his own will that he left, right? He wasn't, they didn't hold him back. It's just like he felt like it was time to go, and that's why he left.
Yeah, I want to go there now because this world is fucked.
Oh man,
well, the Western world is. Anyway, I just noticed Hypno is Hypno, congratulations! You managed to get more revenue than Timcast. for
Ooh.
US-based audiences. Congratulations! I would share the screen, but yeah,
No, we
it's
know
based
that's
in the
it,
Bigot-verse land. Yeah.
right. There's
Dude,
actually
this is
people who also just to
Mhm.
they said about Smoky God that it's actually like in the comment section, you can check it out on Amazon. They say that it's a fictional reconciliation of hollow earth theories with eclectic fundamentalism. So it's interesting that again everything that he described seems so on point and so like making sense with the physical theories that it left people like when you read this book. It's I promise you, it's an incredible. It's like reading, like watching The Matrix for the first time. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? You read this, it's like, this is not a novel. This is not fictional, right? This feels like a documentary more than anything.
No,
And
yeah,
now
this
for
is
our
a-
sponsor, the Smoky God, A Great Story with Dark Roots. Please check out this book. Amazon link is in the description down below. It's a great book, and you will learn a lot. Now back with the show.
Yeah, even though we have
Dragon,
none of
yeah.
that, but yeah.
Yeah. What about
Uh,
all these
yeah.
the seafarers from ancient times, Mount Heru in the center of Earth? What do you think about all that? Don't they kind of fall into the same narrative that maybe they were trying to tell us that there is some sort of a cavity that you can actually travel to?
There's
I think
well,
the
yes.
Bermuda Triangle is probably the biggest place that you could go down there, especially with maelstroms. You know, your ship goes down there, and you literally get transported into that world, but you can't come back because your ship is destroyed. And yeah, it's a one-way trip, folks, all the way down.
Yeah, and I did notice something very interesting. But before I say that, god damn it, Puluwulu is right. You do look kind of like Stanley Kubrick. Fuck.
He
I
does.
can't
If you
unsee it.
tell anyone
Yeah.
any of this, you will be
He does. It's
destroyed.
creepy. Yeah.
No, but in
Let me
terms,
make a film no one really understands, and everyone calls it a genius one.
yep,
What
basically,
was that
in a
damn
nutshell.
film called again?
No, but
forgot.
I will say this. So in
Oh,
terms
Space
of
Odyssey, 2001: Space
that,
Odyssey.
yes, that one. But in terms of like these cavities, it's actually been reported that there is multiple cavities right under the Earth's surface that are actually very habitable. It's not just a single one. There's evidence to suggest that there is multiple entrances. And in terms of the Bermuda Triangle, I mean, if we're gonna just talk about whatever information's come out, there's some people like that have mentioned that, oh yeah, where the Bermuda Triangle is located at, it's like a very focal electromagnetic field area where basically the energy is distorted and unstable because of the fact that supposedly people through past life regression have informed that the capital of Atlantis used to be situated in an area where the Bermuda Triangle is located at, that it was way much more massive, but that unfortunately, because of some mishandling of scientific apparatuses and some greed and wickedness, the damn thing blew up and created such a big ass natural disaster that as a result that whole area became distorted, and that's why when ships go there they end up going missing or somehow ending up in the completely opposite direction than when they came in. It's because it's just a random distorted field. And usually if for people that I guess want to go to the inner earth, you would have to find these alleged entrances, and you would have to go through through quite a long way in order to even reach the entrances. And even then, it doesn't mean you'll be allowed inside. Either you'll get stopped, or worse, the doors are basically designed to where if it detects that your frequency is not the correct one, it will not let you in, literally. So it would be wasting time unless you basically were escorted by someone. It's like a
Yeah.
it's like a
It seems
safety
like
system. so to speak.
It's funny that Ryan before, in his infinite silliness that he carries around with his 24
Black
looking
Lives
like
Matter
84
destroyed Atlantis
years,
with a gigantic January 6th
right?
riot.
But he kind of mentioned Wakanda.
Damn it.
So there's this idea that maybe it's right in front of our eyes, but it's just covered. It's similar to the Truman Show, right? That it's some sort of covered by an electromagnetic field that emanates some sort of an image that to us looks like, oh yeah, everything is perfectly fine, or this is just glacier, or this is just an iceberg or anything. But truth of the matter is, you can actually travel through that magnetic field and then actually reach a new land that looks completely different to what it's projected to the outside. Also, this, again, if you think about the tabernacle kind of having a dome as an enclosure, again, flat earth and the hollow earth are perfectly matching together if you think it from this perspective, because flat earth needs a dome to exist as a theory. And also in the hollow earth, if you think about the two half spheres that are not connected, there are actually two domes. This is the tabernacle. So Edmund Halley, in his very naive way of understanding how this works, kind of, he drew two outer crusts that were not connected. But this is exactly what the ancient model of Earth looked like for the Babylonians. Berossus actually calculated time on a flat disk. And navigators that were actually using the Bailey projection out of Chicago, the Bailey, I think his name was Bramley, I think his name is. We see also that flat Earth projection from Bramley that was created in Chicago, a very famous mathematician and architect. That is actually the projection that gets used by the UN as their logo. And it's also used in Back to the Future by Robert Zemeckis. And one of the first initial establishing shots, we see a lot of different clocks, right? The camera is panning up and through all these clocks, tick-tock everywhere. And we see the flat Earth projection of Bramley, which was used also by Freemasons to calculate the outer rings, right? The outer circles. And so we have a lot of these connections always coming together and also directing us into certain directions. We have the Himalayas, Tibet, Nepal, but we also have the southern polar circles, or the polar circles in itself being potential entrances to this inner Earth. Antarctica is one of them. And just to
the
close
world
down,
is a light bulb, ladies and gentlemen.
it could be.
You've got
It could be.
the circular thing, then
Right.
you've got the core at the bottom, then you've got the
Right.
light in the middle that shines out and ensures warmth for the planet. The world is a light bulb.
So
It's like the human body in other ways. Go figure.
and
I'll go
yes,
and get one for you. A visual demonstration. I'll be right back.
Oh God. Okay.
Would you like to answer this, Dragon?
Oh, let's see. I have vestigial memory of some sort of moon landing conspiracy involving Kubrick, but I don't recall the details. Ooh,
The world
Yeah.
is a light bulb, ladies and gentlemen.
damn, that was quick.
Where- you stole a light bulb so quickly? Good man.
I don't actually use the light in my room. I use the chink lamp. But yeah, it's what is it? I forgot what it's called. It's not
Do
one of the
you-
old light bulbs.
The
it's new
incandescent
age
light
one.
bulb, you mean?
Yeah, it's so dusty.
there-
It just goes to
there-
show how fucking
Oh my
bad
God.
the air is in this room. No wonder a slug
Oh
got in.
man,
But yeah,
it's really. Are
You-
you,
you might
part
wanna
of some
buy,
sort
like,
of
a- Yeah.
Maybe he's part of some project, some secret funded project to see if
I'll
a
tell you
human
this,
is-
folks. I'll
and
tell
a-
you
and a
this.
sleuth ecosphere can
light-
survive for how long?
This
Yeah.
light was made in the People's Republic of China, and it was also sold by Wilco, which
Oh
no
my.
longer exists as a company.
Oh, no, we can't
Um,
anymore. Oh, sorry. Wilco close. Ah, cha. I give a light bulb, but Wilco no more. No more Wilco. Sorry, close. Close, Wilco, go away. No
You-
No
Wilco
refund.
anymore.
No refund.
You,
No.
you
No
can
refund.
tell I have so much white power that my whiteness is literally lighting up this light bulb right now. Look how white it is.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
Now
you are
it's
even
causing
whiter than the
light,
light
to,
bulb.
to hit me.
Damn,
it's
like he
incredible.
is.
Look,
Like if,
Thank you for the
Look.
drinks.
Jesus, it's so bright. It's so bright and powerful. My goodness.
Ah,
Yeah,
very
no,
powerful. Wilco
thank
light.
you.
Would we?
oh, thank you.
So,
Uh,
Dragon,
No,
what
knowing
about the
Atreus, I show him this, and he's like, "What is that?"
Why
I
don't
tell him
you
it's a light
eat
bulb.
this
God
light
damn
bulb?
it.
Mm.
Can we
Oh
just
my
be
God.
professional for once? We have a question.
Oh,
Once
right.
in a while, we get a question, and now we want to behave so that, please.
I'm
Apologies,
treating
let
this
me-
show as seriously as it deserves.
Thank you. It's so kind of you.
Well, Puluwulu, I have a vestigial
Puluwulu.
memory of some sort of moon landing conspiracy involving Kubrick, but I don't recall the details. Well, yeah, I think. Goodness, was it? What was it? A Space Odyssey movie? I know. I have a feeling I know what he's talking about. But yeah,
It's,
there's like there's a conspiracy. I believe it was that the moon landing didn't actually happen. That it was filmed on like a professional Hollywood set, in order to like create the perception throughout the world that America had like the upper edge. Hence, people,
Yes.
it would make them look good. Yeah, that's one thing I heard. I don't know about that because there's enough stuff to point out that it wasn't fake.
Yeah, but
I'm quite sure it was pretty real.
It started all with Kubrick being in LA and being invited by NASA into the Lookout Studio. And that Lookout Studio is in Laurel Canyon in LA. And you have to know, if you're from LA or if you're from the greater LA area, you know that Laurel Canyon is a very infamous street. It has like a huge history in all sorts of different, twisted, strange, occult, obscene ways. So Laurel Canyon is actually a street that belongs to the American government. You can really say so. Most of the houses, there are huge facilities, and there's this incredibly big studio by NASA. And there's also like a kindergarten institution that is one of the first kindergarten institutions that were created by the American government to test some sort of new educational systems of little kids. So a lot of weird stuff has been going on in this Laurel Canyon. Bands killing themselves, very famous musicians from the Woodstock era all living there, underground tunnels, secret orgies in the basement. So Laurel Canyon is really, really famous. And so when Kubrick was spotted there in the Lookout Studio, speculations began to really run wild. And there is a solid fact. There is a solid string of interesting meetings between the American government, Kubrick. Mind you, when Kubrick shot Dr. Strangelove or How I Stopped Worrying and Start Loving the Bomb, when he shot the war room scene, the American Ministry of Defense was so concerned about the truthfulness of the replication of that war room that they reached out to Kubrick. This is real stuff. They reached out to him and they asked him how he did it. How the hell did he figure out how that room actually looks? Because what we see in the movie, allegedly, apparently, seems to be quite truthful in terms of how it actually looks in real life. And this is when the whole collaboration between government branches of, the Defense Department started, collaborating with Kubrick. Kubrick was officially one of the, of the guys who was involved in the Apollo space program, was some sort of a counselor. And this is how, of course, the plot thickens a little bit. We have some collaborators from BBC that have worked also from NASA, and we definitely could shoot a whole episode of 3 Sages and a Time Machine about that connection between the moon landing and Kubrick. There's definitely a case to make for it. What it is, ultimately, definitely, his mysterious death and, the guy that he was. I mean, if you think about the movie Shining, the hotel, Jack Nicholson, right, is the hotel in that movie, it's the Overlook Hotel. And so a lot of people thought back then that this would be a secret hint to the Lookout Studio, right? The Overlook Hotel and the Lookout Studio. And if you kind of dive into The Shining and you dissect the movie a little bit, you will see some odd references to the Apollo space program. A lot of them. I won't go because it will kind of derail the stream like usually Dragon Slayer does. But it's sort of there is a constant tale about the Apollo space program in the movie The Shining, and it makes you wonder: It makes you wonder if Kubrick, was some sort of an architect for showing some sort of, because the 60s, why this could be some sort, there could be something there, is because the 60s, if of all decades that we witnessed so far as human beings on this planet, the 60s, you could easily call them the decade of deception. There was an incredible amount of super weird, strange, abnormal events going down in the 60s. It is
such
absolute.
as the struggle for civil rights.
Everything.
Yeah,
JFK. I mean, you name it, right? Vietnam, landing on the moon. So there is definitely something about the 60s that feels off, definitely. And yeah, who knows? So that is the connection.
I think we never landed on the moon because then all the cheese industries would collapse. Because as we all know, the moon is made of cheese.
Let's get back to topic, shall we? So we have even H.P. Lovecraft, right, who tells about this inner kingdom in Antarctica and these terror beings, and this is one of his spookiest books. Like, from the chain of spooky books, this is probably his spookiest, right? And again, we have the idea that when you read this book about the inner earth and how he describes it, again, you have the feeling that he's not really, like, it's almost like a documentary. It's almost like a witness account. The description of the things there, it's super weird. It's very interesting. So he also kind of points into that direction of Antarctica or the poles being maybe an entrance to another kingdom. And now,
I mean, Mountains of Madness. Remember Doctor Strange, the multiverse of madness? That's quite a parallel there.
Yeah.
It is
between the two.
Yeah.
And now let's get to the real smoking gun of today's presentation, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh.
Wait, OJ's making an appearance?
Yes, sure. Well, we'll just throw in OJ from prison, exclusive interview.
You do know he's dead, Dragon.
I know, that's what I'm saying. We're talking about occult shit.
Wait, that's hell for a black man. Prison. Good
Jesus
one, Dragon.
Christ. Oh, for fuck's sake. But yes, go on ahead. Yes. Oh, yes, I do know about this. Ooh.
No, keep distracting him, Dragon. I need to write down the timestamp.
No. Now we get to the juicy, sexy stuff. Let's get to Admiral Richard E. Byrd and the Hollow Earth. Let's put the nail in this coffin, shall we? So, without any type of exaggeration, guys, I'm going to tell you something. You can technically say, without telling a lie, that the first South Polar expeditions, like the first really, serious South Polar expeditions of the United States, were Masons and Mason expedition or Masonic expeditions. They were co-financed by the American government, and there were high government officials, involved in them. But actually, the first time we went to Antarctica, it's because of, the combined effort of a guy called Richard E. Byrd. And who is Richard E. Byrd? Who is this guy? Who is Admiral Richard T. Byrd? So, Admiral Richard T. Byrd, Richard E. Byrd, it's difficult to explain nowadays, but you could say he was a rock star back then. Like he had a ticker parade in Manhattan for himself. He was an admiral for the Navy. He was one of the most decorated officers in the history of United States Navy. He commanded and controlled one of the biggest operations in Navy history. And he was, besides all these things, also one of the highest decorated Freemasons in the United States. Ooh. And September 1928, he gets introduced in the 454 Kane Lodge in New York City. And literally the day after, he goes out with a huge ship and, travels to Antarctica with this expedition, with this boat that was basically financed by these different Freemason lodges that believe that, Richard E. Byrd should, no, this is not it. I'm sorry. That, he should get in contact with the people living beyond, the ice barrier. And here we have the good guy.
Yeah, no, you're right. And supposedly, the funny thing about that is that they say all the time that the journal that supposedly the story is based off of is 100% fake, but yet there's been multiple accounts of similar things happening over Antarctica and other parts of the world. So, and it is very, very strange that he says one thing on I think it was a Chilean news agency interview at the time. Yeah.
Chilean.
Sorry, I'm Latino. Say Chilean. Okay, I know it's
Chilean.
Oh, Chilean. Okay, Chilean. Well, he did an interview in Chile, basically talking about.
Chile.
Oh, for fuck's sake! I don't care.
Stop
Nobody cares about
mispronouncing
your
words.
weird Welsh pronunciation. That's not you Welsh
Oh my
speak
God.
Gaelic anyway. That's not English.
I used my tilde, sir. Anyway, no, yeah. So he did an interview with some Chilean reporters about his experiences there, and the crazy part about all of this is that he was extremely sincere about it. There is like an actual video recording with audio that
Oh
shows
yeah.
he was being serious when he mentioned this, and the fact that he meant, especially the part where he mentions, oh yeah, these people have technology that like it could run the entire circumference of the earth in a few minutes or less. And he was genuinely terrified, not in the sense of for what the occupants of such vehicles would do, but more of if somebody else different like human nation shows up and they piss them off or they try to steal shit, what's going to happen? Because humans are notoriously persistent. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that he was concerned about. But then afterwards, it gets, and he even writes in his own journal. But then the journal is supposedly misinterpreted as being, oh no, it's actually fake, and yada yada yada, and it never gets admitted whether or not it was actually true, right? And
Yes.
if you actually read the documentation, it sounds pretty lucid. It's not like the
No,
guy was
absolutely.
rambling
Right.
like a madman. It's similar to that other book we were talking about earlier, right? About
Smoky God.
yes,
Yes.
yes, Smoky God. So it's similar to Smoky God in the sense that like it's just a guy writing his memoirs, but in a way that he basically does the same strategy the guy from Smoky God did, which is basically say, "Oh no, actually, it's this is
Yeah,
all fiction.
exactly.
I never said that," but in reality,
Yes.
he probably did. But he's just saying he didn't say that in order to preserve his standing in society, because, and also probably, as you mentioned, he was from a Masonic lodge, so it would make sense for him at the time. He was probably told to keep his mouth shut because it wasn't the time, right? But
Yes.
that's my take on it for now.
No, for sure. I mean, we'll talk about Byrd. What I and kind of explore all these. So what I'm showing you here, and also just take this in. Here we have a poem in this commemorate with the modern Viking. So what I'm showing you here is this this grand dinner with the inaugural Grand Master's dinner and presentation of Distinguished Achievement Medal to Rear Admiral and brother Richard E. Brother, of course, being a Freemason brother, Richard E. Byrd. Okay, so what was this dinner about? In the end, here we find from this is a Freemasonic, booklet that leaves it's like a worksheet for the night. These are the heroes welcome from Antarctica. What did they do there? So here the story gets absolutely nuts, guys. So when people only kind of go into Byrd superficially, they will find exactly like you said, maybe some controversies, some ideas that don't really correspond, or just crazy stories that can be just put away. But if you actually do your research on Byrd, it it clearly, after a while, you clearly realize, holy shit, what the fuck is going on here? This is beyond belief. So hear me out. In 28, being already a distinguished polar, pioneer and expeditioner of the North Pole, and coming back, he was one of the few people who, kind of visited both poles and did many expeditions for the United States. Like I said, he received a ticker parade in Lower Manhattan. So he was considered a rock star, similar to what an astronaut would be later in the 60s, right? Being a polar explorer and being this great guy, right? Back in the days, that was considered to be, one of the polars were considered almost like the moon, like this eerie territory. Nobody could go there. And so therefore, he was a very famous guy, and he was this high-ranking Freemason. And in 28, they introduced him into this very powerful 454 lodge, the Kane Lodge in New York. And they kind of, staffed him out with this ship. They gave him money. They gave him, people and a crew. And they sent him down to Antarctica. And what is he doing in Antarctica? He creates a Freemasonic lodge. Of course, because this is what you would do. And this Freemasonic lodge in Antarctica still exists today. And it's called the 777, which is, of course, a very interesting idea. And so he opens up this lodge.
That sounds crazy, Coach. That's like me building a temple on Kilimanjaro. I'm just going to build this thing here, and no one's going to go there unless they secretly go there and meet with the space beings. Because as we all know, no space being or cave dweller would ever go to Africa.
That's hilarious.
Sonic the Hedgehog's lodge.
I
Oh my
love
God,
that.
that'd be great.
So, yeah, Masonic.
So
it's in the name.
Yeah, so he goes down there and he creates these lodges. And mind you, the Kane Lodge is also a lodge that was associated with Aleister Crowley, the people running the Kane Lodge back then in New York, where, of course, like everybody was reading Aleister Crowley back then in these circles. And everyone was also fascinated by these esoteric ideas, right? They were not just, scientifically driven. Like I said, the United States per se, they had no major interest to go to Antarctica. This mission was completely funded by the Masonic lodges that of course, the brothers that were in there were also part of government branches, but it was not an official American expedition, even though it was bearing the American flag. It was something else. It was an esoteric mission rather than a real polar expedition. And of course, that's the reason also he created the first thing that he did there, he created a Masonic lodge with the name of 77. But it goes even further. What he's doing next, he creates this camp that he calls Little America. And in this camp, Little of America, that happens, of course, while creating this camp, you have to understand, back then it was before the International Antarctic Peace Treaty. So if you would go into in the 20s, you could still kind of go there privately and claim territory. So he was going down there claiming the territory and telling everybody that south of the 66th, polar circle longitude, everybody who would travel through that longitude on planet Earth, mind you, this was an official document that he released. Everybody had to sign up for his Freemasonic lodge, the Penguin Lodge, because Freemasons call themselves penguins because they look like penguins when they have their apron and their Masonic on.
Yeah, they're
and
guard.
So he founded the Penguin Lodge, and everybody had to, even Marines who were traveling on a ship independently, they still had to pledge the vow for the lodge back then. That was before the 30s. Absolutely crazy. So there was this private guy financed by a secret society with an American flag, claiming land and on the South Pole, and saying that everybody who's traveling south of the 66th longitude, which is of course 2 times 33, which is of course the highest, Masonic grade and all that, had to pledge a vow for the entrance to his lodge and had to sign a document, because of the things he could eventually witness south of the 66th circle. And so therefore everything had to be kept secret and quiet. After these fine folks return to the United States, they immediately get funded another expedition, and that later becomes a government expedition. That's also very fascinating how that kind of evolved. And in the meanwhile, Byrd is writing all these books. Not one, a couple of those, right? And he tells about these expeditions, about, his diaries. A funny thing, they all get released, later. His diary was released a year after his death, I think by his son. And his knowledge gets transported by different news agencies and all that. But the funny thing is, he's always the spokesperson that seems to speak on a broader spectrum for what is going on down there in Antarctica. And he talks about that he could enter in Antarctica, even though there are some, here we have different accounts on how these lines could be interpreted, but he talks about these cavities inside and somehow that both poles are connected and that you could fly into one pole and fly out of the other one, and that the planet is hollow and that there is this advanced civilization that, kind of communicates with us sometimes if we are in peaceful manner, if we wear the holy symbols. Now, the funny thing is, before the Second World War broke out, and then I give the mic to you, Admiral Byrd was contacted by Goering and Hess, who were one of the highest officials in Nazi Germany. Goering being the responsible of the aviation, and Hess being responsible of the SS, the occult symbols users, right? The leather jackets of
Hess
German
was
elite.
the deputy. Himmler was in charge of the
Himmler of the SS, right? He was the. I'm sorry, Hess was the deputy.
But in regards to Rudolf Hess as deputy Führer, he basically handled all the paperwork, all the administration, so that the will of the Führer could be enacted.
Absolutely, exactly.
Because he wasn't an admin guy.
And
Hess was though.
He were very, and he also tried. There are some tales about that he was also a double agent later and tried to kind of, tell his secrets to the British Empire. But Hess and Goering met with Byrd. They got in contact with him because they heard through the Freemason circles also of Munich, right, that he was kind of meeting people in Antarctica, and he's having all these explorations and building all these camps and these Masonic lodges. And he agreed to meet them. So again, the admiral of the American Navy meets with with two of the biggest leaders of Germany, of Nazi Germany, to discuss matters of Antarctica and the inner Earth. And he gave them guidance. He gave them a lot of tips, and he helped them substantially to kind of create some of the expeditions that later became New Swabialand, the New Swabialand expeditions. And famously, still there are rumors about the connection about Nazi Germany and some Nazi German officials fleeing to Antarctica and having underground bases there. And this is all coming from that official meeting that took place. So Byrd was also a counselor to Nazi Germany. Why? Because they were wearing the holy symbols that he also saw in Antarctica, in the hollow earth.
Yeah, no.
Very fascinating, ladies and gentlemen. And that is where that origin comes from, wanting to know as much as possible. That is essential, especially in regards to this topic, very sensitive topic, considering what happened during that tumultuous period. Unfortunately, folks, it is getting quite late. Usually I manage to go to 2 hours, but to let you guys know, behind the scenes stuff, I only had 3 hours of sleep yesterday. Words needed a guest, and I was able to be on. And I have been far from 100% today, but I did make a few videos. I did do a show with Aiden, and I managed to hold out here pretty well. That's why I was more aloof than
Mhm.
usual. Finding the slug
Oh.
though really was fucking surprising. Damn,
Of course,
that was
the
surprising.
slug.
But gentlemen, it has been a pleasure, and hopefully you will highlight this topic and find the necessary solution. Oh my, a 10-minute video. It'll take you an hour to go through it all, Coach and Dragon, especially Dragon. But yeah, you guys have a good night. I gotta pop off now and get some shut eye. So bye for now, everyone. Bye.
Hey, you
Thank you
take
so
care,
much,
Ryan.
Ryan, and
Sleep
subscribe to this
for real.
incredible human being. This is really a fun creator, an incredible satiric and sharp mind. I love him, being around the show and especially talking, exchanging all sorts of topics. So make sure to stop by his channel. He has always great takes, funny takes, and very, under this circumstantial hull, he hides a very deep and interesting, haunted, but very interesting soul. So make sure to check out his content.
Very, very concise way of helping me exit, Coach. Well done. Bye for now, everyone.
All right. So, just so we can, I was actually going to mention one thing that was interesting. The story of supposedly how the diary entries even began, right? So,
Yes.
for those of you that are not aware, Admiral Byrd not only was popular for his Masonic origins, which I thank you, Coach. I did not know that. I was always wondering why he always seemed so open about this stuff, and now it all makes sense.
Oh, this is the Bramley
but-
projection.
yeah.
This is the flat Earth projection of time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go on.
No, yeah, it's all good. And so, in terms of the story, how it all started, basically, Admiral Byrd was doing, I believe it was one of his many expeditions through the Antarctic, and he was flying over his plane in the landscape. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of all the ice and snow, he sees a verdant valley, basically, that has absolutely no snow on it. It perplexes him, and then out of nowhere, all his equipment stops functioning, right? And he's writing all this down in his journal very quickly. And he says he notices these two craft that basically tell him in a telepathic manner, "Hey, hey, don't do anything. We taking control of the plane. We're gonna make you land in designated place. The master wishes to speak with you," right? And at the time, he didn't know who the master was. Turns out the master is basically like this.
That's the
He's
Order of the
depicted in
Penguin.
Yeah, he's depicted in his writings as basically this enlightened being that looks very human and seems to be like seems to be a spiritual leader in whatever society he bumped himself into. And in short, they told him that eventually that the Germans and the Russians had come before him to I think it was the Russians, sorry. They had come before him to basically request for information that could allow them to weaponize technology in order to sow a lot of destruction. And let's just say the master and his people were not happy about that encounter. Of course, they weren't violent with them, but they did tell them to be gone because they're not going to give such high technology and information to a bunch of violent people. Okay, that's all these societies all have the same, or most of these societies, I should say, underground have this motto of we're only going to give knowledge to people who are not going to use it to basically detriment everyone on the surface, so to speak, or enslave everyone on the surface. We're going to pick people that probably don't want the knowledge to begin with, but also are not going to abuse it, right? Or people that seek it but are responsible.
That's
And
a good way
so,
to put it. Yeah.
No, I mean that seems to be the general pattern. So what happened eventually is Byrd stayed there for a few days. They talked in length about their society, how things work. He wrote them down very quickly in his journal, which they allowed him to take because you can understand this is a time period where, yes, there's cameras, but they're the big bulky ones. They didn't have like
Yes.
the professional handheld ones. So at the time,
Right.
it would make sense for a man like him to just carry a diary around and just write the stuff as he is, of course, going through it.
Sure,
But
it
yeah,
makes
he said,
sense.
yeah, the society he met, I
Let's
believe it was the Bronze
it's
Men or something.
And I also just wanted to ask you, I mean, do you really think that one of the highest decorated admirals in the history of the American Navy just talks to Columbia Pictures and makes big interviews with Chilean or whatever you want to pronounce it, and just talks about the
Mhm.
stuff, about the land beneath Earth, the land beyond the polar circles, just for the fun of it? This was a highly respected
Oh
gentleman in the
no,
United States.
yeah,
He wouldn't just go out his way to tell anything that could compromise his career forever. And
of course not.
yes,
No, he really
some
believed
of
it.
the
So,
right.
and he felt
So
it was
of course,
concerning.
and he was very concerned about the stuff that he was seeing on there and what he was like, what these people were also telling. And some of the people claim, oh yeah, I mean, Byrd maybe was just a puppet. He was a puppet used by the governments to portray this false narrative about, hollow Earth entrances placed beneath the Antarctic ice. But I don't really believe that. First of all, he's not coming out of that type of establishment, right? He
Mhm.
is one of the puppet masters inside of a game where, of course, there are some strings
Yeah,
attached to him as well, but in a way he was a master of himself. He was one of the most respected, so there was no way of him thinking of, I'm just gonna go out here and gonna spread fake news. And mind you, he was coming out of the same esoteric circles. We're talking about Nicholas Roerich, Albert Pike, Aleister
mhm.
Crowley, Blavatsky, the Orsics, the Theosophian Society. Strangely enough, Roerich and Rudolf Steiner, and to a certain extent, also Trotsky. All these esoteric minds, all being in New York, all at the same time, all studying the same stuff. And of course, they were communicating. I mean, Steiner was like a pseudo Mason as well. So all these people were into
Mhm.
guys. They were part of the higher circles. They were meeting in the clubs. They were talking. They were exchanging. So this was very much a theme that all the people believed in, and
Yeah,
there
no,
were
it's a common thing.
right. You don't go to Antarctica and call this place Little America and tell everybody in the news about these other beings,
Mhm.
um, without you really believing. Now we can now dissect whether or not he was really seeing entities or if this was some sort of a hallucination based
Mhm.
on whatever. But if you read these accounts, and again, it was also his son waiting till his death to publish everything because he was so concerned about the backlash
Mhm.
that, and the connection also with the German, it makes me believe that maybe there was something down there. Maybe he really found an entrance, or he really exchanged with another culture there, or he really saw these beings, right?
Yeah, no, and it was believed. I think it's also believed that Antarctica, before it became frozen, due to a sudden and dramatic pole shift in the Earth, and there is
Right,
evidence of it. I think the Earth's magnetic pole shifted like about 29 degrees very
right,
abruptly, which
right.
caused a lot of natural disasters and basically it moved away Antarctica from a warmer region to a very cold and
Yeah,
desolate region. And
right.
so there was this idea that in the center of Antarctica, at least, the reason why there's such a big gaping hole over there that even today's world governments don't want to admit it's there, or they kind of
Yes.
dismiss it as something minor. Supposedly, back when Antarctica, again, this is from alternative sources, so take it with a grain of salt. But
Right.
in short, the idea was that when when Antarctica was in a warmer climate, supposedly it was located the center of Antarctica when it was verdant may have been a gigantic water system of multiple rivers converging at the center through basically
Hmm.
a cavity, one of two cavities, gigantic cavities of the Earth. The idea is that a lot of people wonder, well, shit, the Earth has so
Hmm.
much water. Where does all this excess water go? And well, the idea is that, well, if the blood in our body circulate the way that they do, and it gets moved around, reoxygenated, and recircled
Right.
so that, there's no overflow of pressure, then if you think about it in that manner, it would make sense for the Earth to also do so. Okay? I mean, that's how it would be a great way of making sure the sea levels remain stable, and would explain a lot of these stories of underground rivers, so to speak, in these Earth cavities that we've heard so many people mention in all these stories. Uh, and so, that's the idea behind it. That supposedly there was a lost civilization that lived above ground, but then something happened that, with the dramatic shift of the Earth's magnetic pole, caused them to go underground. So, yeah, I think,
This
and
is
he was told,
yeah,
he was told all this. So,
yeah. Very, very interesting. Yeah, the
Mhm.
Charles Hapgood narrative, if you
Mm.
read Charles Hapgood's book, it has an introduction by Albert Einstein, so it's pretty impressive. It's a
Mhm.
very complicated read, but in the end, Dragon Slayer, you summarize it pretty well. He talks about that through that shift, the poles would actually change. And if you look at it from a logical perspective, is where you have the poles, this is where you have the accumulation of power, and therefore any type of particles, radiation, anything would be attracted by the poles. So definitely ice is one of those byproducts that you create when you have a constant electromagnetic field
Mhm.
output, right? You would have a high concentration of ice at the end of this pole, of a magnetic pole. So it would totally make sense that once it shifts, the ice moves with it, right? Because it's there where it has its highest culmination of energy. And thinking about that, even if there is some sort of a polar ring that kind of encloses everything, even that would make
Mhm.
sense, because if you have a tabernacle and you have the South Pole, let's say, beneath our event horizon, and the North Pole being the firmament, it would make sense that there is the highest concentration on, on the whole, on the circumference of the disk. So if it would
Yes.
be, so in both ways, the theory actually works, and it's very
Yeah,
fascinating.
it's a natural filtering system, so to speak. But,
Yes, yes,
you know, supposedly there's this. Some people think it's a theory, some people think it's fact. It's still up
right.
to debate, but basically the theory is that if Antarctica has this sort of outlet where the water gets circulated, then in the South Pole, then the North Pole probably has it as well. But then there's that theory that, oh well, when you use Google Maps, the satellite imaging, it like kind of blurs it out and puts a bunch of clouds over, even though it's not cloudy over there, to kind of mask it. Which I don't know. It would be interesting if it turned out to be
Hmm.
true. That's all I'm gonna say, because
Yeah,
I
I
mean, I
agree.
kind of want to believe it, but at the same time, I'm kind of holding myself back from getting dragged in until I see some more information. And I recommend everybody does this, because, like, I hear all these stories and I hear all this load of information, but you also have to learn not to accept everything. More like, just I don't accept the message of the information. Accept the information, then try to figure out what the message is. That's how I think. But in order for you to interpret the message, you have to absorb quite a lot of information and think about it very carefully. Because if not, you can get dragged down a rabbit hole where you end up going off the deep end and off base.
I
So
definitely, I
that's what I
definitely
think.
agree with you. Right. I mean, nothing that we said is true. It's just information. We're just speculating, putting together images, words, chapters,
Very alluring
ideas.
information with a lot of
R-
corroborations, but still,
Right. Still, right.
mainstream doesn't approve it.
No, no, absolutely not. And maybe they even perceive us as being dangerous because we even talk about this stuff. And this makes me curious. And this makes me wonder. It's like, people fascinated by stories, kind of just fantasizing about different connections and making some interesting connections, and kind of unearthing like a belief system that these people shared. by suppressing this information, you make me wonder if this belief system is not actually based on the actual facts and truth. Because if you would just leave me and just let me go for, with my buddies talking about this nonsense without trying to suppress these themes, I probably would think, yeah, that's just fantasy. It's like, but by suppressing it and trying to exclude it and trying to kind of shadow ban it and call us all types of things, you make me wonder if there isn't actually something to it that goes beyond, the speculation and the fantasy. Did you guys ever read Journey to the Center? Of course, it's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about. I'm sorry. We talked about this before. I'm sorry. I just need those sound effects.
Sound
sometimes.
effects and everything. No, that's pretty
We
impressive.
talked about H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, right? Coming, out of these 19th century, writers. And actually, when Jules Verne was asked about it, he said, "I'm not writing fiction. I'm writing scientific fiction." So he always made this point about that there is something, and this is why Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, these and for what it's worth, also Tolkien, right? They feel real when you read them. They feel like it's crazy. It's like you are so connected to it. H.G. Wells, The Time Machine, as well, like the monologues, these stories about the future, what they write. It's really fascinating. You wonder if they had some sort of connection to future accounts. And today we discovered that Maria Orsic, the Real Society, the Thule Society, this huge occult circle in southern Germany, believed the same thing, that you could actually look into the future and into weapon design of the future and kind of channel that information back into the past, present time and kind of, decode it. And so maybe Jules Verne, who was basically also part of the Golden Dawn. Let's not forget that. H.G. Wells was part of the Fabian Society. So, yes.
Oh, don't worry, R2.
Don't worry.
The replay
No,
will
it's
become
okay.
available. So don't worry about it. Okay, you will be able to watch everything we've been going through. So you actually came in at a good time if you want to watch the replay. But yeah, no.
Yes.
I think we
True.
covered quite a lot about
Quite
the
a
inner
lot,
Earth,
man.
considering it's only been 2 hours.
Wow.
yeah.
R2L2. Today we did our first show as the Three Sages in the Time Machine. So definitely I recommend you to kind of dive into the replay, because this is one of our hottest topics. We're definitely gonna come back to this, right? I think we have more to explore. Yeah, we definitely should.
We definitely should. Actually, yeah. I think we can give it. I think we can definitely delve further deep into this topic of inner Earth. I think, and chat, if you want us to talk about, if you have any suggestions for topics, please
absolutely.
make sure to write in the comment section of this video, this live, after it becomes a replay. Please let us know what you would like us to talk about.
Absolutely.
Even, and if it's something very obscure that we're not aware of, and like it's hard to find through YouTube, provide links if you have them.
Absolutely.
Or books that we can read, and that way we can come at it with full force, because we are learning just like you. We just know a lot, but we really want to learn.
We're really obsessed about this.
Definitely
send us on an expedition. The Out of Place Artifacts was also a hugely successful show. Definitely, we're gonna cover we're gonna have a second stream on that too. There's so much to cover there. But here about the inner Earth, we barely scratched the surface. I think we went into different, very interesting directions and made some connections that are pretty plausible and pretty strong also. But definitely, we're gonna continue. There is so much to tell about the amazing stories, the Shaver stories. There's the whole idea that behind the UFO phenomenon, maybe there is some sort of inner world phenomenon as well. Civilizations that claim that they are descendants of the inner Earth, masters. Wow, there's so much to talk about also in future episodes. Don't worry about it, R2L2. It's gonna be a fun ride throughout the year. But I guess. Yes, I guess you're right. I mean, we covered quite a lot. We talked, we laughed, we had the chat, and I think we made a good point. So why don't you go ahead and tell us where we can find you, good sir, and what you usually do when you don't masturbate over the Patriarch's Dawn?
Well, shit. Okay, that's quite a way of putting it. Well, right. So yeah, if you guys want to catch me just on the regular, I'm usually on X or Twitter as I remember it. If you want to catch me on all my socials, then all you got to do is go to my YouTube page, Dragon Slayer Commentaries, and you can literally just type the name like that, or if you click the link on the video on this video, you can click my at link and it'll take you straight to the page. And in the about section of my channel, I do have a link tree to both my Twitter and my Rumble in case you want to see what daily shenanigans I'm up to on Twitter.
Yeah.
And or if you just don't like YouTube and you want to watch my videos on, I guess, a freedom fighter platform, then Rumble is there. So do check it out. I think you'll enjoy the content. Like I said, I do mostly sarcastic commentary reviews on mostly the bad stuff coming out of Hollywood lately. But
Right.
I am working on something where I will be covering some
my
of the
God.
positive golden nuggets that sometimes can be found while
that
dumpster
works
diving.
on something. Right. That's exciting when a Latino starts work.
I know, right? And that's always crazy. They get all mad, and then like the freeloaders get mad at us too. Go fucking figure.
No,
But
yeah, what are you
no, but
cooking? What are you cooking in your belly?
sure, yeah. So for now, I'm thinking I'm gonna be doing 2 short videos on basically just talking real quick about the X-Men 97 show, just like my quick non-spoiler, by the way, because I think as that kind of amazing show that I don't even want to fucking spoil it. So it'll be a non-spoiler review of my take on X-Men 97, very short, and
Mhm.
also afterwards I will do my little short video talking about the god awful Rings of Power trailer. It's not that I wasn't the season 2. Yes, I
It's
know, I
so
know.
bad. The
Yes,
trailer is even
pain.
worse than. Oh my
It's
God!
pain.
It's pain. It's really. Oh God! Oh
It's so
God! It's
bad.
gonna be.
Look,
I'm
I'll
almost
talk to
looking
you guys.
forward to it. It's so bad. Yes. No. Absolutely. No. I'm
I'll
not.
complain about Sauron Bro's wig. Okay, don't worry about it. I
But
still remember a
still,
little.
I still have, problems figuring out how I can place the word short in the context with Dragon Slayer commentaries. Short videos, short comments.
I
And
know, I
how
know.
is
I
it?
can do
And
it. I
you,
can do it. I just don't.
oh man.
I just.
Yeah, no, I know
Oh,
you will figure a way out, but still.
oh, I know. I always do. But no, yeah. Honestly, guys, that's mostly what I'm gonna be doing. And then afterwards, yeah, I'll kind of sneak in that Rebel Moon movie review. Please subscribe to both Coach's channel and mine if you haven't. If you enjoy our content, please do so. Check out Coach MC at his usual links because he's very smooth with the little plugins and I love that. And you know, a- a- and yeah, I also will be covering. I think after I do all of that, I'll also talk about how good the Blood of Zeus Netflix animation show has been.
Yes.
That was actually pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it
That's a
was pretty
very
good.
surprisingly, it's very good.
Yeah.
The second season did very well, and there's a third season that'll be coming out next year, and I think that'll
Cool.
end like the entire story. It's made by the
Right.
people that made the Castlevania animation, but unlike Castlevania, there's no like weird woke nonsense, as they say, in it.
Yes.
It's literally ingrained. It's a very unique, ingrained story
Cool.
regarding Greek mythology, and like they take all
Cool.
aspects of Greek mythology and then from some other mythologies, and they make it into a good fantasy story of basically the hero's journey. They actually do it right.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Cool.
And
Nice,
I'm going
nice.
to talk about that, and then afterwards, I'll fucking dive on the Velma HBO show. I don't give a shit.
Oh, man.
I
I'm
will
with
not
you,
let
man.
that. I will not let that go. It'll be the last
No.
season. It's not getting renewed again, so I might as well cover
Yes.
it and milk it to death.
It's a
So,
shame. It's a shame.
I know.
But yes, give
you
this
go.
guy a follow. Watch his content, even if it's short. But he has longer videos that are absolutely genius. And yes, I'm looking forward to seeing your reviews and laughing because you create a very funny comedy. I love your edits and everything that you do and your voices. So it's great, entertaining. And you go through hell for me. So I thank you also, good gentlemen, for doing this. Thank you also so much for showing up and kind of being this incredible, very valuable addition to this humble program where we try to kind of shed light into the mysteries of our history. Thank you so much, guys, for showing up. John, Artulitu, Bulu Bulu, Bulu Bulu, Dexonar Zero, and Golden Age Geek, Gooch, everybody who was here. Beautiful. Thank you so much also to the Instagram crowd, to the Facebook crowd. You guys been awesome as well. Please stop by. Of course, next Tuesday we have our next Three Sages in a Time Machine, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have next Thursday our 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time regular open class doodles appointment. On Saturday we have our masterclass. You can still register with the tickets down in the description and be part of that tribe. We're going to talk about the act, the craft, and the beauty of improvisation. Everybody who wants to be an entertainer, a comedian, a stand-up guy, an actor needs to learn how to improvise, and we're going to talk about it extensively. And we're also going to improvise with the creative community present that day for that masterclass, so definitely check that out. It's going to be the last free masterclass to register before the summer break. Definitely do that through my link tree on Instagram, through the description down here, or directly on Eventbrite. Otherwise, if you want to join the madness of entertainment industry, or you want to spice up your program, or shoot maybe a new video for your portfolio, definitely check us out on readytoperform.com. We have different services. The public speaking service is a very, very popular one right now. For all the real estate agents, for all the sellers, for all the pitchers, this might be the chance to kind of finally break through or step up your game remarkably. Otherwise, for actors, this might be the chance to kind of, get your portfolio audit, get new insights, a new strategy on how to navigate your career, or add something amazing like a great dramatic monologue that we will work together. Or if it's just for the sake of a discovery session, just to see what I have, to offer. And maybe if we find out we're a great match, then we start an adventure together. So definitely jump to my website. It's readytoperform.com, or hit me up on Twitter, X Twitter as the COACHMC, as well as on Instagram, on TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And next Saturday, of course, both Dragon's Lair commentaries and my humble self will be part of the Saturday Night Hypnosis Panel Madness, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think that's it for today. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in today's Breakaway Civilizations and the Inner Kingdom Mystery with Dragon Slayer, Ryan Roger, Athe, and my humbleness. See you next time, because now you are ready to explode.